Good evening, everyone. Today's conversation is raw, honest, and deeply human. We're joined by author and motivational speaker S'bu Ngubane as we unpack his powerful book, Yesterday I Cried. This is more than a book, it's a journey through pain, vulnerability, healing, and self-discovery. In this discussion, we talk about why tears matter, how emotional honesty leads to growth, and how moments of brokenness can become turning points in our lives. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, silenced by pain, or unsure how to heal, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. How are you, Spoo?
I'm very well, Sid. I'm hoping that you are well too.
Yeah, man, it's lovely to catch up with
That's
you. I enjoyed our chat we actually had last week.
Yes, it was. I also had a great time. It was quite refreshing for me. So, yeah, I also did enjoy myself.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just waiting for my questions to load, but okay, let me just uh, refer to my phone quickly. Then my apologies for that. Okay. Okay, my opening question to you is the title yesterday I cried is emotionally powerful. What personal experience or turning point inspired you to write Yesterday I Cried, and how did it change you as a person?
Well, thank you so much. I think firstly, I really wanted to. Okay, let me tell you how that title was born first. I think it was really born out of you know, a moment in my life that really a moment of desperation, if I may say so, where I was really battling with a health condition, and and the doctors couldn't really identify what was wrong, and yet it continued to trouble me, and I remember that I was actually outside the country when again I had an attack physically. It really left me a bit despondent. And this is at that moment that, I then decided to say, look, instead of just succumbing to hopelessness, let me, jot down how I'm feeling. And little did I know that that was really going to be, for me, a moment of pivoting. It was a very critical moment for me, and this is how, so the reflections, I kept writing the reflections until they became a book. And then I said, okay, what is the, for me, I really wanted the readers, a book that the readers can easily connect with as just they look at the title. So I thought that because this relates more to my issue of the era of pain, there is no better title than a title like Yesterday I Cried. And the reason that I sort of chose that title is because I know that most people can actually relate with having had to shed a tear, in their lives, with having to had to lose something, experience pain of one form or another. And I think for me, it was therefore, it was that moment that sort of ignited a journey, which was also to be a journey for me of healing, because as I was writing the book with the perspectives that I share, it also became a healing book, but also self-discovery as well. It sort of changed me in ways that I never really anticipated. So yeah, this is how really we landed with the title Yesterday I Cried. And I must say that they turned out many years down the line, because I launched it some years ago. It was a great decision because many people can actually relate, not just with the title of the book, but with the contents of the book as well.
The book explores pain, healing, and growth. Why do you believe acknowledging emotional pain is essential to true transformation?
Well, I think for me, it that does that embracing that vulnerability allows you, to face your realities and your circumstances, instead of wanting to avoiding them. And I think it opens the way for genuine healing, a pathway for you to then transition to the next level of your life. And I think for me, accepting pain is really the first step towards understanding ourselves better, and ultimately also it leads to personal growth, as well as resilience.
Many people suppress their emotions to appear strong. What message does your book send about vulnerability and emotional honesty?
What people don't know is that expressing vulnerability is not a weakness, it's actually a strength more than just a weakness. And this is the mistake that we often do. And you find that because we're afraid to lay ourselves bare and to be vulnerable, we then act strong and putting up a facade. Now that doesn't help us in terms of growing. Whereas if you sort of become naked and you share your vulnerability, firstly, it allows for people to realize that you need help. It opens you to more connections, and also, one of the mistakes we often do, the reason we hide vulnerability is because we appear as weaklings, as as ones that are weak, and contrary to that, you'll be amazed how many people can actually relate with your plight. Sometimes we are, hoodwinked by seeing people, acting all happy. We walk in the malls, we just see happy faces until you sit next to them and they begin to tell their own stories. Then you realize, wow, I'm actually, I thought I was going through a lot, but if having just listened to the next person sharing their stories without also being scared of being vulnerable. So therefore, vulnerability allows for connections. It allows for you to get help that you need. It allows you to actually to reveal your true emotions, and I think your true emotions therefore tend to foster deep connections. And in the process, facilitate, or rather, yes, facilitate your healing, and for you to be able to get into the next level of your life, because at the end of the day, we all need to become, there is a best version of you that sometimes is suppressed by the experiences that you go through, sometimes is suppressed by the things that you yourself have hidden and have not allowed yourself to heal.
How can readers who are currently going through deep emotional pain begin their healing journey after reading this book?
Well, I think firstly, the important thing is actually to accept and acknowledge your feelings, for people to acknowledge their feelings, um, to reflect, as I did indicate, and not to hide, their pain, but to accept and reflect, on their experiences. But also, it's also good. One of the things I've realized is that it's good to seek help and to connect with others, and to, I'm one person who's a believer in being able to seek help, even if it means that you need to go see, a psychologist, psychiatrist, or even support groups, as part of getting your own healing. But whatever it takes, you have to do something rather than just to sit, in the same position. So I think for me, this is what I'll really encourage readers to do.
As a speaker, you engage with people from all walks of life. What recurring emotional struggles do you see that this book seeks to address?
Well, the most common one is really where people hold on to things that are dead and for what used to be. I think it's in our nature to hold on to what used to be. Now, life doesn't allow that. Life consists of transitions, of seasons, and so on. And I think for me, that's one thing that is common, that you find recurring amongst people. And this is one of the things that the book does. The book really is the one that really encourages people to let go of the things that have been, because we really tend to do that, especially because we have this misconception that what used to be was grander than what is yet to come. We tend to over glorify what used to be, especially when it comes to relationships. And one of the points that I'm making in the book is that, in life, and I suppose one of the reasons we hold on to what is dead in terms of relationships is because we think that it's the best that there was. And I make a point in the book that out of one person, no matter how good you think they are, there are million others that can even outdo the persons that you have met. So I'm therefore saying, but I think we are limited by our own perceptions, and to think that what we have been introduced to is all there is, whereas there is more. So I think and for that reason, chapter 5 of the book is one that is most common. It says forgetting former things, because it's one phenomenon that, as I go address different audiences, as I interact with individuals, you'll find that it's a phenomenon that becomes very common.
How does Yesterday I Cried challenge cultural or societal beliefs about masculinity, strength, and emotional expression?
Well, it does so, particularly when it comes to, if you talk about masculinity, if when it comes to, the men in general. Men, we grew up knowing that tigers don't cry. There's that common saying, which really tends to encourage us to hide our wounds and our vulnerabilities, and want to express ourselves as this stronger version of us, that I'm strong and so on. Now, and sadly, it doesn't take your pain away. It doesn't take your experiences away. Hiding your traumas doesn't take them away. It does not mean that your experiences never existed. So it doesn't help you, even if you're a man. And I think for me, one of the things men of today need to realize, that reaching crying helps you to release your emotions. Expressing your vulnerabilities help others to help you. Being open, and showing your scars to others, facilitate your healing. But it also fosters deeper connections as you relate to people that have really been through the same experiences. Because, as I say, I always marvel at, hence I said earlier that we really get hoodwinked by seeing being people, whether we meet them at the malls, or wherever, and we see them, putting up happy faces, and we really hoodwinked to think that, hey, you know what, I'm the only unlucky one, everyone is happy in this world. It's a lie. The reality is that it's people that have chosen, some are putting up a facade, and some have chosen to, not to cry for help and get help. Some are really just, it does not mean necessarily that because you just see them being happy, they are not going through the most. They are. So when you're listening and therefore sitting down with, a person, hearing them sharing their own stories, you marvel, at but I really thought that I'm the one who is worse off here, worse off, until you listen to the next person.
All right. I'll be asking you my final question and then I'll get to the live comment questions. All right. When readers close the final stage of Yesterday I Cried, what is the one emotional or spiritual breakthrough you hope they experience?
Well, I think for me, the most important thing is, for people to be truly liberated, and for those that who thought that, their life has ended or their situation is hopeless, for them to realize that, there's a sentence that I write in the book, that says, when you are down and out, no one can pick you up but yourself. People can motivate you, say all sorts of things, but at the end, in life, life boils down to two choices. You just accept where you are and just remain where you are, or you just refuse to stay in the same position. and say, I'm gonna, try and to be a better version of myself. So life is always about choices. So the issue of really whether you remain, downcast, despondent, and brooding over the past, you have that option. Or saying that I'm going to defy odds. I'm going to rise and take off my sackcloth. I'm going to rise and do all I can, because others have, many have actually defied their odds. I think that would be my perspective on this one.
Right, I'll get to the live comment questions. This is from Resh Chitan. Hi, Spoo. After pinning your emotions, does it help you heal? How would you advise someone who is also going through the same pain and emotions as you?
Look, after penning my emotions, it really did help me heal. I got to, reflect more, even on the things that under normal circumstances, I would really not have gone to that level of reflection. But also, I think it allowed me as well, and it opened me up for, for God to begin to speak to me, things that I would not have, when you are still and quiet and just focusing on listening to yourself and your emotions, is the time that also allows God, in that stillness, that God allows to speak to, to your situation and to your pain. And for someone that is going through, I really just want to say, that one of the things that I've come to realize is that, which led me to write my second book, which is We Are All Here, is as people, read my very first book, Yesterday I Cried, I then realized, and people came with testimonies for me saying how much the book is helping them. I realized one thing, in that, each person is contending with their own thorn in the flesh, and therefore you find that, so people can relate. So you are not. All I'm saying is that you realize that you are not alone. And number two is that I've realized that perspective is everything. I've come to appreciate that there is nothing just incidental in my life. Everything is meant to actually to propel me to the next level. So everything is interconnected, and this is why I don't waste any experience. Now every experience for me is significant. I just ask myself, okay, what is this experience? It's either come to teach me something, or it is meant to propel me to the next level. And I think therefore, I would say someone going through that, I would say that, it was not just in a wasted experience. They say that everything happens for a reason. So even if, so for someone that is going through the same pain and emotions, you must know firstly that you are not alone. But secondly, nothing just happens in this world, and nothing is coincidental. There is a bigger plan. There is a bigger picture, and there is a bigger vision that God has for your life.
All right. All I gotta say, thanks so much for your time and hope to catch up with you in the future.
Thank you so very much. And thank you for hosting me. I always enjoy being in this platform. Thank you so much, Sid.
Most welcome.